Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So first off, I'd like to give a shout out to one of my YouTube members, Tinky. Thanks for your support. Now in today's video, we're going to feature Sevyn as a 5-star, and then going to do a little bit of gameplay, and also feature him in some DPS fights against the newest optional super bosses, those Shadow. But the most important question of all is he hot or not?
Yeah, he's hot, but he'll be even hotter if he takes off his jacket.
Alrighty then. Okay, his VC is pretty standard. Wind type resists 35% down for 2 turns, which is not bad. However, as a conditional wind zone setter, his end of turn boosts are pretty good. So in any zone, he can boost max HP for your frontline members up to 1,000 depending on the number of wind moves that done that turn, 250 per move, as well as end of turn heal up to 40% or 10% per wind move done that turn. So very good support for wind type teams. Now, first of all, his 4-star Dust Devil move has now been upgraded to give himself mental focus. Normally, this wouldn't be too valuable because if you are in a magic team, you have lots of magic zone setters probably giving mental focus all around. However, I think his main value is in a wind type team. He does a lot of wind support, and so he's able to make himself a lot more powerful with that mental focus, self-sustaining, so to speak. Now, the Monsoon is his wind zone setting move. Wind AoE guarantees pain inflicting, and however, when not in zone, then it'll deploy wind zone and heal and restore status and so on and so forth. Keep in mind that it will not overwrite existing zones. So if you're fighting some super bosses or bosses that have existing zones, this is going to be a useless move in that sense other than setting pain. And so, you'll have to find a way to kind of overcome that. Now, in terms of his DPS move, the Rampage Gale, very, very powerful move. Wind Magic AoE. Power is increased by the number of IDA School or Lost Lab characters in your party to a maximum of 4. So he counts as 1, so you'll only need 3 other units in order to satisfy the maximum 4. And when another zone is deployed, triples the damage and attack, guarantee crit, and damage 40% boost for all weapon types, including staff and under wind type weapons. So very, very powerful in terms of both offensive support. Note that it is conditional with another zone being deployed. However, let's be honest, most of the Lunatic and especially some of the Altars do rely on, another zone to be active to maximize their DPS. So keep that in mind as well when you're evaluating him. All right, so this is his board. You can see those. And note that he has lots of personalities where you can share and accept buffs from Grasta. So IDA School, Staff, and Lost Lab are the ones I would be focusing on. Glasses is obviously a little bit less. Now, you do get his true proof when you're finishing his 5-star quest, and so pretty standard setup otherwise. So let's take him out for a spin. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So the fact that he can set zone on his own with a move is quite nice. Keep in mind that allows first turn AF as long as the enemy doesn't already have a zone in effect. And his AoEs will easily clear any comparable mobs of his level or lower. Now against horrors or more powerful bosses, you could either set zone or have someone set wind zone for you. Note that because zone wasn't set, he also healed 25% HP and MP and cleared status. Then you would set up his Dust Devil to give himself mental focus. And finally, you would spam his Rampage Gale over and over again. Now, of course, it's not as impressive because he's not really being supported. But the fact he can inflict pain without Pain Grasta is quite nice in that sense as well. So I know some of you are doubting his power and thinking he's kind of crappy as a 4-star upgrade. He has a conditional wind zone setting, which is obviously not ideal. However, I want to show you his DPS potential. Now, keep in mind, we're going to compare him against one of the other top wind magic DPS currently in the game, Dunarith AS. Vayna, let's be honest, Vayna doesn't do a lot of wind type damage for magic zone. So obviously everyone has a setup move, so we're going to set up with wind zone first, and then we're going to lock in another zone to bring out the maximum damage for, well, let's be honest, even Dunarith AS will benefit from another zone wind. And watch the hit. 30 million guaranteed crit, by the way, don't forget, versus Dunarith AS, which is, although he can stack his Turbulence Death up to 4 stacks, it takes up to 4 rounds to get maximum DPS, and even at that point, it would actually be comparable in DPS to Sevyn outside his Another Zone boost. So for comparisons, if you look at the AE wiki, I believe the Dunarith mod is somewhere in the high 5s or low 6s, and Sevyn's damage mod is actually 600% if you carry himself plus 3 Lost Lab IDA units. And so even outside zone, it is comparable to Dunarith AS without needing to set up multiple turns. Now, obviously, this is just one isolated example of trying to compare the two. But, you know, I wanted to show you that even outside his specialty move, he's not nearly as terrible as people think. Now, of course, you do have to carry 3 additional units, which actually affects your team comp quite a bit. And so I understand he won't be ideal for Magic teams. However, obviously, you can still use them there if you absolutely wanted to. But where he really shines is in calculated, focused team comps that have your IDA and Lost Lab units on it. And if it's supported properly, such that he has his max HP all the time, he will benefit from all those multiple max HP shared grass that we have access to. Keep in mind that, again, he is an IDA unit plus the Lost Lab unit plus a staff unit. So he'll get multiple benefits from all those, which I'll show you at the end of each of these 2 super boss fights. Alright, so again, 3-turn kill for this Cardinal Vengeance or Shadow of the Scales. First turn, we're just kind of setting up everything. We do need Starburst from Starkey, because by having that preemptive power and int down, we're able to survive the first turn. And then we're going to unleash a large AF. Look at the damage we can get if we get the right stacks. So obviously we had modified Starkey to cast Tornado, which allows up to 3 wind resist down stacks. We have wind resist down from Altered Dewey, as well as weapon damage up from RCF himself. And of course, we can do a ton of damage with one-shot hits from Sevyn. Also, remember he has end of turn heal, which is very, very useful in surviving the attacks after the HP stopper. And don't forget that we have Kirill here. Now, Kirill I haven't reviewed yet, but one of his awesome uses is not only can he lock in zone, because he does have, when he activates Lunatic, he can actually set another zone if you don't have another zone setter. He also does have a move called Thorn, whatever, which is preemptive break and inflicts poison at the same time. So if you do your cards right and stack them, you can just cast the preemptive break and let the single hit from Rampage Gale do a ton of damage. Remember that break only lasts for the first hit, so in multi-hit moves is not nearly as effective. In this case, being that he's a one-hit move and it's AoE, you can clear many super bosses after the HP stopper that are vulnerable to wind, and in this case, you know, over 170 million damage. Keep in mind also that the enemy resists this damage. So in a normal fight, that would be times 4. Remember, resistant damage is only quarter damage, right? Now, I was going to mention earlier about his top line DPS. Again, if you refer to the AE wiki, his mod at full capacity is 1800% for damage if you can fulfill all conditions. Keep in mind that even AS Chio with her one-shot super kill move is only 2250 mod. So it's actually quite comparable to the top DPS in the game. Again, understanding that there are restrictions in the move sets and the team comps you can have to have the maximum 4 Lost Lab or IDA. Keep in mind that Alter units count as Lost Lab, so it's not even bad. If you have RCF and Cyan Scyther like here, that's already satisfies 2, he is the 3rd, and you just have to carry one unit in the back and you have 4, right? Other than that, I learned something from the last encounter against the Shadow of the Swordsman. If you do less hits during the AF, and keep in mind, he only does 1 hit, you won't die at the HP stopper. His counter depends on the number of hits you take. Up to, if you give him 30 hits, he'll counter with a maximum 6666 damage. In this case, I only did, is it either, I can't remember if this one's 10 or 13 hits. And based on that, we only take like 2000 damage. And so remember that we weren't, even with the barrier, note that we had Garen Barrel up front, which should reduce damage by 100% for 1 hit. It doesn't work in these fixed damage situations, kind of like the land avatar. However, he is useful for another reason. He is a wind unit, which obviously helps maintain the AF bar for wind. And the other thing is he can cast a preemptive rage, so all your attacks are focused towards him. And he'll survive those attacks because he has a 70% physical resist buff on himself as he casts that rage tanking move, allowing our Rampage Gale to do a massive amount of damage for the second hit and bringing us to the second HP stopper. And again, no problem. I know that before we had bodies lying everywhere. After a little bit of tinkering, this is really great. Look at that, 185 million. Remember, his Rampage Gale is guaranteed crit, doesn't need any mental focus because he's self-sustaining with that Dust Devil, and the fact that he increases weapon damage for your entire team by 40%. Not to mention, of course, RCF is also doing a lot of work with the Grudge Spark and the Raging Anger to help support your wind team because he converts to any elemental zone and supports it with 75% up, 75% down in terms of wind resist up. Wind attacks up, wind resist down. So very, very powerful Alter type team. And like I said, look at all the shared Grasta we have. We have tons of Grasta. Lost Lab, Healthy Living, 2 IDA schools, and so on and so forth. So in conclusion, Sevyn is a very powerful unit, although you can argue he has a little bit of a niche use. Given the right team comps and the fact that he can accept so many buffs from shared Grasta, he will be a mainstay for many wind type comps for the future. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.